Illusory World is considered to be the most advanced, fully immersive virtual online game of this era, with millions of players from around the globe freely choosing from various classes and races. And out of those millions of players, there was this girl who, while fighting the final boss of the game, suddenly found herself in a completely different place. The strange part wasn't just the change in scenery. It was as if everything felt a little too real, even for a top-tier VR game, because she was able to feel the ground beneath her feet, she could hear the wind, she could even smell the air around her. This got her wondering if the game suddenly got a new update or something, but that idea didn't last long. After all, the devs would have at least announced something before such a massive change, which left her with only one explanation. So to confirm it, she came up with the perfect test, and that was to take off her panties, but before you guys start judging her, she had a perfectly reasonable explanation for that. Illusory World is a 12+ game, meaning something so inappropriate would never be allowed. But what do you know, it actually worked. Before she knew it, she had her undies in her hands, and that confirmed her suspicion. She got Isekai'd to another world while playing a video game, and of course the first thing to do after realizing such a big development was to see if you could still access your game panel, because of course. Turns out she can, and while checking through the screen, she realized her game stats got transferred with her, which were already pretty much maxed out. Just then, her eyes landed on the name of the account, and she saw it was called Violet. This name is a big thing here, because guess what? This flat-chested lowly right here is actually a dude. A dude who was playing as a support female character, and a dude who was actually giggling, realizing he just lost his junk forever and would never be able to reunite with it ever again. Well anyway, he had already read enough Isekai'd manga to know what comes next, so first things first, he, or scratch it, I'll just call him a she from now so it's not confusing, started summoning one of her companions from the game, and it actually worked. She managed to summon one of her most powerful companions from that game by the name of Xiao Guan, who unsurprisingly turned out to be a dragon girl with a very thick tail, and the first words out of her mouth after being summoned were, and I quote, "Master, do you want to ride me now?" Yeah, those were the last words she had expected to hear coming from the mouth of a healthy dragon girl, because last she remembered, this character only had a few lines she was able to say, but right now she felt so real to her, which shouldn't be possible. Turns out the reason he chose Xiao Guang as his battle pet in the game with this character was because this character was a priest, not very ideal for close-quarter combat. That's where Xiao comes in with those thick, muscular thighs and strong lower body to swat away anyone who dared get too close to her. As all that was going through her head, Xiao was silently staring at her, tail slowly wagging as she waited for her orders. But since she didn't even bother acknowledging her presence, she got worried and got up herself. Leaning in closer to her face, she asked if she was feeling alright. Even then, our boy refused to move because he was still trying to process how any of this could be possible. How can an NPC from a video game come to life and act like a normal human? And not to mention the girl smelled heavenly, and that wasn't helping the situation either, because back in the game he never saw Xiao in this way. But now, with her standing face to face with her, she could feel a strange sensation building up in her stomach, realizing things might get ugly if he didn't do anything fast. She pushed the girl off her, saying she was fine. Quickly changing topics, she told Xiao she was planning on exploring the forest and asked her to lead the way, instructing her to keep her guard up for any hostile enemies. Cut to some other place, and a muscular man was seen trying to block a powerful hit using his shield. But it was no use because the enemy was just too strong, resulting in his shield shattering into pieces, and he went crashing back to the ground. Turns out he wasn't alone. The guy had some other party members with him as well, and none of them looked in any shape to defend themselves. Seeing the man bleeding on the ground, the healer girl behind him urged him to take the chance and run. But the man refused to leave any of them behind and instead prepared to get back up to face the monster once more. His opponent was a gigantic, cool-looking black tiger, and the thing was sizing him up for its next meal. But refusing to give up without a fight, the man let out a loud scream, taunting the beast to charge, and the thing complied and immediately charged at the already broken man. As it was about to get to him, Xiao appeared out of nowhere, smashing the massive creature's head into the ground with such force that even the ground underneath them shattered into pieces. And that was it, because the creature's soul happily left its body after getting stomped to death under the feet of a beautiful dragon waifu. As for the bearded guy, his jaw was hanging seeing the sight before him because damn, the girl looked absolutely stacked. I'm getting a feeling this is going to be a really good story. I mean, look at those thighs, artist isn't holding back on any details. By then, our main girl had also arrived at the site, but looking around, it was obvious this wasn't a time for pleasantries, because one of the party members was in critical condition because the wound he received on his stomach was too severe for the healing girl to fix with her magic. Hearing this could be the last time they are seeing this kid, the bearded guy got all emotional and started smacking the poor, already half-dead man, telling him not to give up. And to make it 1,000 times worse, he blurted out his secret in front of everyone, reminding him how he said he was going to propose to their healing girl after this mission was over. As all that drama was going on, our Chad in the back was already planning to intervene to test her powers in this new world. So she activated one of her weakest healing spells on the man. And right before everyone's eyes, the man's whole body started levitating as some strange energy flowed into it. And in mere seconds, the wound on the man's side was completely healed up. Seeing the sight, the girl started tearing up, not just because her friend was safe, but because the wound on his body was something not even the best healer in their city could fix with this power. But this girl somehow managed to do it so quickly and with not even a single scar left behind. Our girl, though, was extremely confused hearing her say those things because she was sure this was the most basic of the healing magic, but somehow it was considered powerful here. But still, he was glad he managed to save that man's life, because right now, that's all that mattered. Just then, he got approached by the bearded man by the name of Lester, who thanked our girl for assisting them. Otherwise, he was sure they were goners. Our girl, keeping it cool, answered that it was nothing. Hearing how casually she was taking this whole situation brought tears to the man's eyes. After all, they had taken out a Black Knight tiger with a single attack, and she possessed absurdly overpowered healing abilities. So he asked if, by any chance, she could be the redemption saintess from the Holy Empire. Yeah, our girl had no clue what this man was murmuring about, so she introduced herself as Violet, a traveler who was wandering from place to place. Lester, still grateful for her help, asked how they can repay her kindness, and our girl, already sick of all this emotional drama, told him to answer some of her questions and take her and her companion to a human settlement. We are told a little bit about this world. This place is inhabited by many intelligent beings, with many different nations, which were formed based on different races. This world also has its own power system, which determines a person's status, and it starts from the rank of novice, after which comes bronze, then mithril, and then gold adventurers on Lester's level. After which there is obsidian steel, which is the level of that black tiger. Above that, there are 3 more ranks: earth, then sky, and finally legendary. And right now, our overpowered couple is in one of those kingdoms inside the Forest Tavern, with Lester sitting across from them, telling them about all that stuff. But for some reason, the man was literally shivering sitting so close to our girls, which annoyed our dragon waifu, so she told him to stop before she gave him a much bigger reason to shake. But that just made it even worse. With everything she needed from the guy, our girl got up and turned around to leave, and that scared the poor man as he started wondering if he unknowingly offended them both. Fast forward, and Zhao was enjoying a warm, refreshing bath in one of the rooms of the inn, and our girl was right beside her, going through everything she managed to gather from Lester about the power system of this world. And after doing her math, she realized that it lined up way too neatly with the level system of the game where her powers originate from. Lester, being a gold adventurer, was around level 20 to 30, and that tiger they took out was above level 30 at most. So according to that logic, if there is a 10-level gap between each level, then the max level in this world caps out at level 60. Whereas she, on the other hand, was sitting at level 110, and that got her wondering if, by any chance, she just became the most powerful individual of this world. Yeah, that was a dangerously funny thought, so she started giggling to herself, realizing she was better than everyone else. As for Zhao, that girl herself was a beast in this world, with a terrifying level of 100 and very legal age of 372. See there, she's 372 years old, meaning she just looks petite. She's not a kid by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, with everything figured out, our girl decided to call it a night, but then she turned towards the bed and noticed that they were only provided with one, meaning she would need to spend the night on the same bed as Zhao. As her inner dude was pondering over whether this was about to be extremely awkward or catastrophically dangerous, Zhao suddenly stood up all serious, and that completely startled our hero. Terrified, she turned to see what was going on and immediately locked eyes with the 2 massive spheres right in front of her, causing her brain to go completely blank. As for Zhao, she was warning her of some strange energy just outside the building that was getting closer to them. Cut to the outside, and a man was seen walking around the streets, and the fluctuation Zhao was sensing was coming from the stone in that man's possession, which he stole from some altar, and that thing was a magic sealing crystal. Just as he was grinning to himself, thinking he had finally struck it big, a fist came flying out of a nearby window and sent him rocketing through the air. Turns out it was our beautiful dragon waifu who decided to take matters into her own hands, since our girl was too mentally stunned to function after seeing her in her default skin. As for the crystal, the thing landed right in her hand, and I can already tell this is going to end really badly for both of them. Seeing the dark energy coming from the thing, Zhao immediately dropped it and leaped back, signaling our girl that the thing was dangerous. After a couple of minutes, our girl was sitting with the thing in hand, going through its details, and according to her system window, this thing was a special item of purple rarity called the Demon Gem, which was a piece of a staff which once belonged to some powerful demon in ancient times. And this thing was a fragment of the gem that the demon used to cast magic with. Xiao, though, wasn't happy seeing the thing in our girl's hand because she knew that thing was bad news. But our grinning idiot, on the other hand, was already planning something, and from the looks of it, it isn't good either. Next chapter, and it's already the next day, and our drooling Chad was opening her eyes with something soft and squishy under her head. And of course, right next to her was our dragon waifu, who was telling the girl not to run her hand like that, because her tail was extremely sensitive. Fast forward, and they were saying their farewell to the party, and that made Lester all emotional, and our girl already knew how he gets when he is emotional. So she told him to keep his distance. Anyway, the man was thanking her for saving their lives, promising to repay her next time they meet, but our girl told the man there was no need for that. Just before leaving, she tossed something towards the man, telling him to keep it as a souvenir, and to their shock, it was an item, and not just any item. In their eyes, that thing was a spiritual treasure, something so rare that people would absolutely kill to get their hands on even a single one of these. Turns out the reason she gave them that thing was because she wanted to test if people of this world could also equip items from the game, and turns out they can. And from their expressions, she decided not to bring her items out like that in the future, because that would draw unnecessary attention towards her, which she doesn't want right now. As for the item, that thing was just a trash, low-level piece of equipment she got from the game. With that out of the way, she and Xiao officially started their first journey in this new world, and their first stop was the capital of the Human United Kingdom. Cut to someplace else, and a bunch of bloodied knights were seen locked in battle with the enemy and were trying to protect their princess, and in front of them was a small army of rebels, something they weren't ready for. And because of their numbers, the rebels easily managed to take out all the remaining soldiers to get to the princess. But the moment they opened the carriage, they saw that the thing was completely empty. Turns out this was a trap set by someone to lure these men out in the open. And by the time they realized it, it was already too late, because the whole place shook with a massive explosion. Just as that happened, the remaining rebels heard a voice from the back calling out to them atop a cliff, and the person on that horseback was none other than the princess herself, named Lilia Melchior, along with her army, who had the whole place surrounded, and the woman ordered all of them to charge and exterminate the rebels. Realizing they had walked straight into a trap, panic broke out in the ranks of the rebels, and before they even knew what was happening, the soldiers came rushing in, mowing down anyone unlucky enough to stand in their way. But they weren't the only ones there. Our girl, along with Xiao, was also in the place and were watching the whole scene from the sky, and our girl was actually impressed with the princess's strategy, but her showing interest in some random girl made our dragon waifu a little jealous. Seeing her face puffing up, our girl decided they should leave, but just as they were about to, an arrow came flying through the air and the thing was aimed right at our girl. But right at the final moment, Xiao managed to stop the projectile, and boy, let me tell you, the girl was pissed seeing some weakling trying to harm her mistress. And because of that, the girl prepared to disintegrate the whole army along with the princess to ashes and bring this whole damn place to the ground. But our girl, on the other hand, had other plans, so she stopped Xiao just before she could fire that attack. Thinking that she might have messed up, Xiao apologized, but our girl quickly assured her there was nothing to apologize for. After all, she was just trying to protect her, but she also knew how hot-headed she can be, so she asked the girl to head back to the pet space for now while she takes care of things here. With that, our girl prepared to make her grand entrance and brought out her silky white feathers, after which she turned her gaze towards the one responsible for firing that arrow and saw a redhead standing beside the princess. Seeing the sight, everyone was stunned, especially the princess, as she wondered who this girl could be, because it wasn't the first time she saw a winged one, but for some reason, this one in particular seemed different from the rest of them, because she was emitting such a pure and radiant light from her body. And not to mention, she was the most beautiful winged one she had ever seen her entire life. As for our girl, she decided to break the silence and asked the woman if she was the princess of the human kingdom. But the girl was just too mesmerized by her beauty, so completely ignoring her question, asked if by any chance she could be an angel who was sent down into their world. Seeing her walking toward them, the redhead quickly instructed the princess to stay behind her, because she was still convinced this person was dangerous, because she'd been watching their battle from the sky for quite some time now. Hearing her words, our girl was genuinely impressed that she had known all along they were being watched during the fight, and asked if she possessed some kind of detection skill. Before she could answer, the princess herself stepped forward, asking for our girl's name and what she was doing here. Our girl calmly responded by asking what exactly she was offering in exchange for that information. Hearing her answer, the princess simply smiled and suggested they continue the conversation in her carriage, and since the girl wouldn't stop calling her an angel, our girl corrected her, saying she was just an ordinary priestess and not an angel. After some time, both of them were sitting inside the carriage, and getting straight to the point, the princess asked our girl if she was willing to temporarily accept her employment. Our girl wasn't interested in working for some princess she hardly knew, because she was looking for an adventure, and babysitting royalty sounded painfully boring to her. But the girl, with those puppy eyes, kept insisting, promising to compensate her in any way she liked, whether in gold or magical items, even offering to grant her titles or land if that was what she desired. That instantly piqued our girl's interest, because no mere princess had the authority to hand out titles or land like candy, so she asked exactly how she was planning to pull that off. Realizing the girl was sharper than she thought, Lilia fell silent for a bit, after which she told our girl she was planning on becoming the queen of this kingdom, and asked if she would be willing to lend her strength to make that happen. That did sound interesting to our girl, but she still had a question before making any decision. How can she, being a princess aiming to sit on the throne, trust someone like her so easily without even knowing where she came from? Turns out it was just her gut feeling telling her our girl was a good person. She explained that her father had been sick for quite some time now and probably doesn't have much time left. As for her three brothers, they spend their days scheming against each other with no concern for matters of state, which only leaves her and her younger sister. But even she was just a child, so if she didn't step up, all of her father's life's work would be ruined by their hands. On top of that, they even banded together and forced her onto the front lines to fend off an invasion by the Beastmen kingdom, which she had no choice but to go along with, because refusing would have meant losing her claim to the throne. On top of that, the soldiers they took out earlier were also sent after her by her brothers, and she was sure even more lurked in the ranks of her troops. After listening to her whole story, guess what genius conclusion our girl came to? She was asking her to assassinate her own brothers so she could secure the throne. Yeah, no. Lilia immediately told the girl that was absolutely not happening. She explained that all she wanted from her was protection until they safely returned to the capital, and in exchange she promised to compensate her with anything she desired, as long as it was within her power and did not go against her principles. That was certainly an interesting proposal, so our girl casually asked about the redhead standing outside the carriage and how much she was getting paid to protect her. Turns out nothing. She wasn't getting paid for anything. She voluntarily joined Lilia on this expedition because both of them were good friends and she was concerned about her safety. Lilia properly introduced the redhead to our girl as Flora, one of the 3 great legendary level adventurers of their city, and also the youngest legendary adventurer of their time. Yeah, legendary figure. That was perfect for our girl because she was thinking of getting close to someone like that to gather more information about this world. So she agreed to tag along with them, and just like the redhead, no compensation in return. But it was not like she was offering to act as her meat shield for absolutely nothing in return. She needed information. Basically, the princess needed to be completely transparent, an open book with her, hiding nothing at all, so she asked if she was comfortable with that. Lilia didn't seem to mind that condition and agreed to our girl's terms. Cut a couple of minutes and they were on their way towards the front lines, with our girl asking some information about the beastmen race and if what she was reading in this book was true, that those races could match elite human soldiers in strength, even when they are not fully matured, because if that was the case, then they were at a serious disadvantage. Turns out it was even worse than that because according to Lilia, that book was seriously downplaying their strength, because in reality those beast folk were even more powerful. Whoa, now that is a view. Okay, let us not get distracted. Stay on topic, brothers. We must stay focused. Our girl was settled into what had to be the most comfortable spot in the world, calmly reading that book on other species. As for Mommy Lilia, seems like she herself was enjoying herself, pampering our girl like she was a child. She told our girl about the different beastmen races that inhabit this world, starting from harpies, who possess the ability to fly, then there are bear folk, who are incredibly strong, and finally tiger and lion folk, who are natural warriors. But there is one more species that is more powerful than all of these species combined, and they are the half-dragons who inherited the bloodline of legendary beings and possess immensely terrifying power. And from what she had heard so far, there are rumors going around about the current beastman king, who also happens to be the leader of the half-dragons, and according to the rumors, he has somehow managed to surpass the legendary level, which was considered the highest level in this world. This was all big for our girl because before this she thought level 60 was where these people capped out, but apparently that wasn't the case anymore. Just as she was thinking that, the carriage suddenly bumped into some rock or something, startling our girl, who immediately sat up to check what was going on. Turns out they had finally arrived at their destination, so Flora told the girl to get ready because they were now standing right outside the east gate of Wanhee Fortress. After some time, Lilia was on her horse calling out to the man in charge, asking the reason for not opening the main gate for their princess, who came to aid them in the battle against the beastmen. A voice came from atop the walls apologizing to the girl, because for some urgent reason, their whole city was in lockdown, so no one was allowed to leave or enter these walls, meaning they won't be able to verify her identity or let her through the gates. Hearing that, Lilia signaled to Flora to show them the thing. The girl obeyed, brought out some documents from her robe, tied them up with an arrow, and prepared to unleash hell down on the men standing in their path using a technique called Scarlet Flame. Next panel, bam, a massive explosion shook that part of the fort. As for the men stationed there, I'm pretty sure they would need to change their armor after this, but at least they managed to recognize Flora from that one attack as their legendary adventurer, meaning what that woman was claiming was true. She truly is the princess, so they opened the doors for her troops. As for Lilia herself, the girl was looking all proud, praising Flora that even the soldiers of the Wanhee Fortress know of her nickname, Scarlet Flame. Our hero, though, was silently watching the whole thing, calmly calculating the power behind that attack, and according to her rough estimate, Flora was at least level 40, or maybe even pushing level 50. And let's just say she wasn't impressed, because she was expecting more from a warrior of her caliber. Cut to the inside of the fortress, where an old man was seen taking in his final breaths with his son, clearly worried about his father entering the room with a bowl of soup in hand. But even in his condition, the man was still worried about the war raging outside the walls and asked his son what the situation was like out there. Turns out this man right here is the Wanhee Fortress commander by the name of Leighton, and his son, by the name of Isekai'd, assured the man things weren't that bad. Their soldiers were still managing to keep the beastmen at bay. Just then, another voice cut throughout their conversation, asking what happened to the man. The moment the old man saw that it was their princess, he froze in disbelief, because she was the last person he expected to see in such a dangerous place. Turns out the girl knew this man and was really close to him, and seeing him in this state, her heart sank, so she asked why wasn't the news of this sent to the capital. His son answered, explaining how half a month ago his father was attacked by someone using a short blade coated in poison, which left him severely injured, and since then his condition had only been getting worse. Not even the doctors or the priests are able to do anything about it. As all that was going on, our hero was busy trying to scan the poison inside that man's body, but for some reason even her system wasn't able to detect what kind of toxin was used on that old man. Despite his condition, the man urged his son to stay focused on the defenses, because the enemy's army wasn't far away from this place, and if the news of his illness reached them, he was sure they would come knocking on their door by tomorrow morning. So as his final order, he raised his voice and shouted at his son, declaring that he was placing him in charge of their royal army and ordering him to use that authority to assist their princess and drive those damn beastmen out of their land. As all that emotional drama was going on, our hero was slowly walking up to the man, and just as she got in range, she activated one of her more powerful blessings to see if that would do the trick. This sudden outburst of power shocked everyone in the room, because the power they were sensing from that girl was out of this world. Even Flora, a certified powerhouse herself, was left utterly speechless at the sight before her eyes. And just like that, a massive wave of lightning fell from the sky, going straight through the ceiling of the building, and it struck the old man dead on, sending sparks all over the place. The poor son of the man had his jaw hanging, seeing what just happened. Meanwhile, our hero, who did not even realize how ridiculous that blessing was, casually stopped and turned to the man as if something like this was perfectly normal. As for the old man, damn, the guy got jacked. I mean, seriously, the man had muscles growing on top of muscles, all thanks to that one spell. The story cuts once more, and this time we are outside the Beastmen army camp, where a loud scream of a woman was heard echoing through the whole place. Inside one of the camps, a woman was seen clenching her eye, because for some reason blood was gushing out of it. Seeing her condition, another beastman came running to check up on her. Turns out this woman is their high priest and also the one behind that curse that was slowly killing the old man. But this time, somehow, a human managed to break that curse, which is something considered impossible even for the strongest of their kind. And this absolute beauty by the name of Isekai'd wasn't happy with how things turned out for them, and that got her wondering who in the human kingdom could be powerful enough to cast such a powerful miracle. Cut to the next day, and the bridge leading inside the Wanhee Fortress was seen getting raised up, and the reason was a massive army that was standing right at their front gate. On the human side, all of them had gathered on the walls waiting for the battle to start, and just like that, the beast folk were given the signal, and their whole army charged straight at the fort. What is going on here? Wasn't the fort supposed to be surrounded by water, but somehow, when the army charged, the place turned into hard ground, giving the beast folk the perfect opportunity to use their ladders and scale the walls. And in that very same army was the cutest beast girl I've seen so far in this story. But why does she have to be on the enemy team? Why can't she be with our girl instead? Anyway, this girl is one of the tiger folk, and her name is Kunner. And the reason she is so confidently climbing the wall is because some damn stupid fool sent her to her imminent death, saying that the leader of the human army was dead because of the curse that was put on him. So with that in mind, she managed to climb all the way up, confident she had this in the bag. Yeah, that was until she looked up and saw the very same man standing right in front of her, and she mentally went, wait, what? As for our newly buffed up old man, the guy was grinning, fully ready to send her right back to wherever she came from. Next panel, bam, a loud explosion shook that part of the wall, and poor Kunner was seen getting launched off the massive wall, flying straight down toward the ground below. After taking care of all the soldiers trying to scale the wall, Leighton lifted his sword, ordering his men to get their arrows ready, and as soon as the enemy was in range, he commanded them to rain hell down on them. The soldiers obeyed, and the entire beastfolk army went into absolute chaos because guess what? Their bodies were covered in either fur or feathers, meaning the fire damage was hitting them twice as hard. As all that was going on, our girl was quietly watching the whole scene, sitting atop a nearby building and seeing all of them fighting. The only thing she could do was sigh, because she still wasn't sure what she was supposed to do in this world. So she summoned Xiao, because that girl herself was a beast folk and the strongest one of them all, and asked what were her thoughts about everything that was going on. Xiao didn't quite understand that question, so she presumed Violet was asking about the strength of both armies. So she told our girl that, in her eyes compared to both of them, all of these people were nothing more than ants, but that wasn't what our girl was trying to ask, so Xiao asked her to clarify. Our girl, though, simply closed her eyes and prepared to activate another one of her spells, while wondering if what she was about to do was the right thing, because deep down, even though she was still a human, she felt bad seeing all these beast folk dying left and right, and she couldn't tell why. By then, the harpies had already arrived at the battlefield, and they came bearing gifts too, and those gifts were massive boulders, which they proceeded to drop from the sky on all the unsuspecting humans protecting the walls. Just as the humans thought it was all over for them, a massive energy barrier suddenly appeared, covering that entire section of the fort, and in the process, it straight up disintegrated every single harpy that had been circling the skies. Seeing that massive thing, the humans' morale shot through the roof. As for the beast folk, all of them turned around and started running as soon as they saw the terrifying sight. Not far from the place was the princess, who herself was left speechless seeing the sight, and was sure this was the work of our girl. Back with our girl, who after ending that battle with just a simple defensive attack, stood up and without saying anything, turned around to leave. But deep down, she still couldn't help but wonder what was going on with her, because even after ending so many lives, she wasn't feeling anything. Cut back to the beastmen camp, where our poor little cunner was doing her best to hold back her tears while bandaging her arm, which got really messed up during their last battle. Just then, she heard a voice calling out to a human who was wandering around their camp, warning him to turn around and go back to wherever they came from. Seeing the one standing before him, the man froze, because the person who was calling out to him was from the Foxfolk, and not just any Foxfolk, but the youngest legendary level individual he had seen in his entire life. As for the girl, this is Mevis, the most powerful member of the Foxfolk tribe, and she was not happy seeing a human casually strolling around their camp, so she prepared to slice him in two. Turns out she's a total airhead because she completely forgot that the human standing before her was on their side, but lucky for the guy, she recognized him, after which she told him to head to their priestess camp because she wants to see him. Fast forward, and the man was standing in the camp. Turns out this man is working under someone who wants our beautiful Princess Lilia dead and wasn't happy when he heard that their siege failed and that woman was still alive. Hearing his tone, Isekai'd warned the man to watch his tone when speaking in front of her. After all, Her Majesty the Beastman King agreed to this deal because he thought his master had what it took to inherit the throne, but turns out he was wrong about that because the information that was provided to them was false. That Leighton was still alive and kicking, which was why they failed to take over that fort. But the goofball, not even taking this conversation seriously, just pointed at her face asking what happened to her eye, and that annoyed the girl. But quickly calming herself, she switched topics and asked if he had any knowledge about the two incidents that took place inside that fort recently, because she was afraid there was an incredibly powerful person inside that city who was on the human side, or Leighton managed to get his hands on a powerful artifact that was behind both incidents. The man answered he didn't know anything about that. To that, Isekai'd answered it didn't matter either way, and since his master has already provided their army with enough rations to last them for quite some time, she has no other choice but to fulfill her part of the deal. So she turned toward Mevis and asked how confident she was about infiltrating the fort and assassinating that princess. The girl answered that if there really was someone protecting the princess and they were behind both incidents, then she was only 30% confident. Smirking, Isekai'd asked what if they somehow managed to lure that princess out of the fort. The answer was simple: a clean, confident 100%. That was exactly what she wanted to hear, so she came up with a plan on the spot. Turns out she was planning on revealing some of the key locations of their army bases and officials to that naive princess, because that way she was sure the impatient girl would take the bait and leave the fort with her army to directly attack those places to try and drive them back from their lands. Cut back to the princess, who was looking out the window while talking with our girl, and after today's incident, she was confident in their victory, and it was just as Isekai'd had predicted. She was planning on taking her army to directly attack the beastmen's supply lines. Back in the beast camp, the sly one was grinning with a master plan in her head to take out the princess. Meanwhile, our girl, who only agreed to protect her, asked why she was revealing such confidential information to someone she met just days ago. But after everything our girl had done for her, Lilia considered her more than just a bodyguard, and she was sure, if she hadn't decided to keep both incidents a secret, a statue of her would already be standing in the central plaza. Yeah, that was a terrifying thought, so our girl immediately decided to pass on that honor and pretend it was never mentioned. However, she was still curious why Lilia was in such a rush to wipe out the enemy. After all, even if the beastmen were not actively attacking, they still had the entire area surrounded, and stepping outside the walls could mean walking straight into a trap. Lilia agreed with that assessment, but the thing was, these tribes invaded their cities every year, so for them, it did not really matter even if they had to stay here for a couple more years and wait for the perfect opportunity to strike. But she, on the other hand, didn't have that much time, because if her father kicks the bucket while she is stuck fighting on the front lines, her brothers would surely seize the throne for themselves. But that wasn't the only reason. The main reason was that she was worried about the safety of her citizens, who are living in constant fear because of the war that is going on. Yeah, right. Xiao wasn't fooled one bit by that last reason, and neither was our girl, because she could immediately tell that girl was lying about the keeping the citizens safe part. On top of that, this plan she came up with was too dangerous because she was putting the lives of everyone in line just so she could get a shot at sitting at her father's throne. But for our girl, this was really starting to get interesting, and she wanted to see how things were going to play out for this greedy princess. So after thinking for a bit, she asked Lilia if she would like to learn some new skills from her before they head out. Okay, so this part was extremely confusing, or maybe it's just the shitty translation, or I'm just too dumb to understand. But from what I can make of it, back in the game, she had this ability which allowed her to share some of her skills with the game NPCs, but of course with limitations. Only low-level skills could be shared with them, and NPCs' level also played a major role in how many skills they could use, and right now she was planning on using that same mechanic on Lilia. After the preparations were done, she asked Lilia to close her eyes. The girl obeyed, and Violet started the process. Just then, her skill tree started to mirror into Lilia's mind, showing her all the endless possibilities, and seeing the size of that thing left the girl utterly speechless. But quickly she started to acquire those skills, and the first skill she got was the flowing wind, which allows the player to manipulate air to create movement. Second skill was wind slash, which condenses air into a blade-like form for attacks, and finally air shield. All this was too much for Lilia because the number of skills on that tree were absolutely ridiculous, so her greedy ass tried grabbing as many as possible, but her body wasn't able to handle so much power. As a result, she collapsed to her knees and the tree vanished. As for our girl, who I'm pretty sure is digging her own grave by handing out broken powers like free samples, she just smirked at Lilia for being way too greedy for her own good. Lilia, however, was still in disbelief with everything that just happened, because she could feel this new power surging through her whole body. So in gratitude, she knelt in front of our girl, thanking her for everything she had done for her, acknowledging her as her teacher. Yeah, teacher was too cringe for our Chad, so she asked the girl to instead call her sister from now on. And what do you know, she wasn't done. She had another gift for the girl, so after helping her up back to her feet, she began to place some kind of ribbon on her neck. Initially, Lilia tried refusing, pointing out how she had already done so much for her, but our girl insisted, claiming the thing was a symbol of their new friendship. And of course, that instantly turned Lilia into a giggly, sparkly mess as she happily thanked her. Cut to the next day, and Redhead was in the middle of briefing everyone of their strategy. Turns out they managed to locate the exact location where the main beastmen army was stationed, which was 5 kilometers west of the Wanhee Fortress, and her first objective was to destroy their supply lines. So she was planning on taking their main forces towards north, while traveling along the bank of the Black River, to enter into the beastmen territory, where they would disguise themselves as merchants after splitting into smaller batches, and after 3 days when the time was right, they would regroup to attack the enemy. Lilia agreed to the strategy even though it was a risky one, but our girl, though, was wondering why weren't they just crossing that river directly instead of going through so much trouble. Flora explained that the Black River was vast, spanning all around the beastmen, which acted as a natural defense for them, but there were 2 more important reasons they weren't entering those waters. And the first was because a long time ago a black dragon used to dwell in the place, who although had long since left the place, but it left behind magical beasts possessing dragon blood in them, and because of that, no one has ever been known to successfully cross the Black River. Basically, that place is the Bermuda Triangle of their world. And the second reason was that they were a lightly equipped force and didn't bring any boats with them, since their soldiers are used to fighting on horseback. Yeah, that boat part wasn't a problem for our girl, so she told both of them to leave that part to her. Next panel, and a massive ship was seen floating on the ocean's surface, which according to the girls was unlike anything they had ever seen, because that thing was large enough to transport their entire army. All excited about the whole thing, Lilia quickly took Flora's hand and started running towards the thing to get on immediately, and that actually surprised the girl, not because of how Lilia was acting, but the fact that she was able to pull her so casually, because that was something that should be impossible for a normal person. So that got her wondering what on earth had happened last night when Lilia went to meet Violet that changed her this much. After they finally set sail, our girl called out to her dragon waifu, because she had been way too quiet since yesterday. And why else? The girl was jealous because of how much attention she was giving to Lilia, even sharing her power with her, and that was annoying her a lot. So our girl teasingly called her out for being jealous, but already annoyed, Zhao immediately denied that. But we all know that is the truth. As for Zhao, she had a question for our girl, so she asked why Violet was being so kind to a mere human in the first place. That question surprised our girl, and she fell into thought, because to her she was never being kind to anyone. Everything she had done so far was to see how much of her powers still worked in this new world. As for sharing her strength with Lilia, she was simply curious to see how far this princess could really go. Just as she was staring at her meat bags, she suddenly heard her ordering everyone on board to get on their guard, because a powerful enemy was rapidly approaching them. That surprised the troops, because the only thing they could see was a small island in their path. That was until that small island rose to its feet, introducing itself as the Great Lord of the Black River, and one of the sons of the dragon Nasaratric. As for our girl, she just stared at the overgrown turtle with that dumb expression glued to her face. And the moment the creature's eyes landed on the tiny human girl standing before him, it did the most obviously sensible thing. It shrank into a human-sized turtle and fell flat at our girl's feet. Cut to Zhao inside the pet space, who was bored out of her mind just sitting around and doing nothing. Just then, she noticed a portal appearing inside the dimension, so she quickly turned to see if our girl came to visit her. Thinking that it was her, she quickly changed back into her human form and jumped right at the person to give them a warm welcome hug. That was until her eyes landed on the disgusting scaly creature standing before her, and that pissed her off. But luckily for the thing, our girl appeared from behind the creature before it got its head chomped off by Zhao. Still, the overgrown lizard was pretty hyped seeing a living pureblood dragon after so many centuries, and not to mention this one was even more powerful than its own father. Next thing he knew, he was being used as a sitting stool by Zhao, who was asking our girl the reason for this sudden visit, and whether she had brought this old turtle as her next meal. Yeah, the creature knew he was screwed. But thankfully that wasn't the case. The reason she brought him to this place was because she had some questions she needed answers to, and she needed a quiet place for that, away from that nosy princess and her friends. So getting straight to the point, she asked the thing if what it mentioned out there was really true, that it was the son to one of the dragons. The thing nodded, answering yes, and for some reason, the creature was referring to our girl as if he already knew her, because in the past there was another who possessed similar abilities like her, and he mistook her for one of them and asked what happened to those beings and why they stopped showing up in this world. This surprised our girl because this meant there were people before her who were sent to this world with these absurd abilities just like her and Xiao. So she told the thing to tell her everything he knew about those individuals. Hearing her say that, the turtle itself showed surprise because it meant this girl was recently sent to this world, so it decided to tell her the whole story. And the first thing it told our girl was that the aura he was sensing coming from her body resembles that of his father's master, the one known as the Demon Lord Olivia. According to him, nearly 1,000 years ago, Demon Lord Olivia, along with his father, left the Black River, and since then, there has been no news of either of them, nor has he been able to contact them. That was worrying indeed, two of the most powerful individuals just vanishing without any trace. So she leaped off of the creature's back, after which she brought out something from her storage space, asking the creature if he recognized this. Turns out it was that same piece of rock that they managed to get their hands on when they first arrived in this world, and seeing the broken piece, the turtle froze in horror, because that thing belonged to his lady Olivia. And because of that, the guy literally rolled over on his back and started panicking like a child, asking what happened to the two of them. Yeah, our girl was wondering the same thing, and also if that Demon Lord Olivia could be another player like her who was sent here from another world. Cut back to the Beastmen Army supply camp, where the logistic commander Kunner was sitting inside her camp, annoyed about the fact that she got stuck in charge of such a boring task, because even after getting her butt handed to her by Leighton's hands, she was still looking for a rematch. Just then, she suddenly smelled something burning nearby, and that surprised her, so to check what was going on, she peeped out of her camp and noticed there was no guards in sight. Oh yeah, she is screwed. She was put in charge of this place and she failed spectacularly, because the whole camp was burning like there was no stopping it. After processing the situation for a couple of seconds, her brain finally caught up, and she realized they were under attack, and that scared the poor things senseless. Yeah, get ready to have your hearts broken, boys, because what comes next probably is not going to be your favorite part, because it sure as hell wasn't mine. Since before the girl even had the chance to fully process what was going on, an arrow came flying from the distance, piercing her straight through her neck, and the one responsible, Flora, who after taking the poor little girl out so brutally, was reporting to the rest that she managed to take out the enemy's commander. And with the commander dead, she ordered her remaining assassins to take out everyone from this camp, and not to leave any survivors. In the middle of all that, Violet walked up to the motionless body of Kunner, and after turning her around using her feet, commented how this one was actually cute. I know she's the protagonist and all, but that grin on her face is just messed up after seeing the poor little girl lying there. Well, it is what it is. This is war and things happen in war, so let's just continue with the story. Just then, she suddenly sensed a presence nearby and turned to see who it was and noticed a shadow of a person watching her from behind one of the corners. Noticing the girl staring right at them, the person was terrified because they were using some kind of ability to conceal their presence, but somehow this person was still able to see them. So with no other choice, they started running from the place before they met the same fate as Kunner, and what do you know, they managed to escape in one piece. Looking back, they noticed no one was following them, and that got the person wondering if he was just imagining things back there. But what he didn't know was that it wasn't his imagination. Cheap tricks like that didn't work on our girl, who was smirking, seeing the rat man desperately running for his life. Cut to Isekai'd's camp, who also got the news of what happened at their supply camp, and to make it even more shocking, according to the informant, the one leading the charge was the same princess they had been trying to assassinate, which shouldn't be possible because of the river that splits the two islands. But the person swore it was the truth. After all, they saw everything with their own eyes. This truly was troublesome for Isekai'd, because she wasn't expecting her forces to arrive at their territory until next month. Turns out the one reporting everything to the woman was the same rat kid who our girl ended up sparing, and his name is Prakaka. And the woman showed surprise that someone as powerful as him fled that place instead of fighting back, and asked the reason. Well, of course, the reason was our girl and her deadly glare that had the kid trembling in his boots. But keeping a cool front, he told the girl he wasn't confident in running at the enemy headfirst without knowing their strength. So he chose to escape and asked what her orders were from now on. Isekai'd answered by mentioning something about some eternal throne and how this rat kid was accepted into that organization, which she clearly wasn't happy about. But still, since he was a beastman, she decided to trust him this once, after which she got all serious and told the kid to listen carefully and pass her order to everyone. They were to attack the Wanhee Fortress with all their forces, making this a final battle, and do as much damage as possible, after which they were to retreat immediately by this time tomorrow, because she was planning on taking all their troops back into their own borders. Turns out someone from the royal family was supplying them with large quantities of grain and other materials in exchange for their armies to destroy that fort, so she wanted to hold her part of the deal with that person. As for their other objectives, she told the rat man to leave that part to the eternal throne to handle. Cut back to our girl, who'd been listening to their whole conversation using the rat man, and I'm not sure just yet if that rat man was wired, or she took him out and created his body double to send to Isekai'd to gather information, but it is one of those two things. As for that eternal throne, That was the only thing in that conversation that actually piqued her interest, and she wondered what this thing could be. Fast forward, and they arrived at their main camp that was supplying their whole army with the rations, where, after telling both girls what she managed to gather from Saharit, she heard Flora explaining to them about this eternal throne, which, according to her, is an underground organization consisting of 12 members, each at least legendary level, and they delve in necromancy to achieve eternal life. Lilia, however, was more disturbed seeing all the humans in front of them, who were preparing all the supplies that were to be sent to the enemy forces, and she was sure it was her brothers who were behind all of this, so she ordered everyone to get ready and destroy this whole supply line. Hearing her order, Flora immediately leaped into the place with her assassins to take out all the traitors, sending panic through the whole camp. While she was busy butchering all the rebels, our girl was calmly staring at the teleportation array on the ground, because this was something completely new to her, and she was wondering if these people were using this thing to transport food from the capital to this place. In the middle of all that, Flora suddenly noticed something terrifying. An arrow was flying straight towards Lilia. She tried warning the girl, but it was already too late for that, so in the end, she shot her own arrow towards the projectile and managed to stop it just inches away from Lilia's stomach. This sudden attack shocked the princess, so she turned to the location from where that arrow was shot from, where she saw an old man covered in dark electricity walking out of the smoke. And for some reason, this person was acting like he knew our redhead. Yeah, look at that expression, they definitely know each other. Turns out this grinning old bastard is Flora's master, who taught her everything. Hearing that the guy was her master, Lilia froze for a second, because that man was supposed to be the #1 archery master in their whole kingdom, who died many years ago. And look at the giggly one behind the girl who was smiling in such a serious situation, because things were getting really interesting now. Turns out Lilia was right. This man did die a long time ago, but the thing was, he never stayed dead. The Eternal Throne found him, brought him back to life, and also granted him endless power in the form of necromancy. And this bastard, like any typical villain, started monologuing, introducing himself to the people who already knew about him as Anthony Stevenson, the 6th throne of the Eternal Throne, who was hired to take out Lilia. Damn man, I'm starting to think her brothers might actually be a good fit for the kingdom. I mean, look at the influence they hold. They even managed to hire an undead guy and were controlling the whole beastmen army from the shadows, while Lilia got kicked out of her own house and is wandering around like an idiot with her 2 girlfriends, trying to play soldier. Realizing they were screwed, Lilia told Flora that they needed to retreat immediately because this was clearly a trap. But to her surprise, Flora refused, and what do you know? Flora had been using Lilia this whole time. Turns out one of the main reasons she tagged along with her to the front lines was because she was searching for clues leading to the Eternal Throne, and now that she managed to get to the man she'd been looking for all this time, she apologized to Lilia, since she won't be following her orders anymore. Yeah, right, like hell she was going to let that happen. So she shouted at the girl to stop spewing nonsense, absolutely obliterating whatever cool image she was trying to keep in front of the old man. She told Flora that she doesn't care why she followed her. All she knew was that they are friends, so she was going to support her no matter what, and gave her the green signal to face that man. But with one condition, she better come back to her in one piece. Seeing Flora walk up to him, the man asked if she was seriously thinking of facing him all by herself, reminding her how all those years ago she ran away during their battle because she was just too weak. But still, he was looking forward to seeing how strong she had gotten during all these years, so he prepared to face her and called for 2 more of his friends to join in the fun. Just as he said that, 2 mummies appeared on the battlefield, both known as the 4th throne of the Eternal Throne, one named Buckle and second Bark, and both of them at legendary level. Yeah, Flora wasn't afraid of the numbers because she had her own backup with her, and seeing her smirk, the man asked for the reason. The girl simply answered that it was nothing that concerned him, after which she leaped straight at him, telling him that his opponent was her, so he needed to stop worrying about the others. With that, both of them turned into flashes of light, clashing through the whole battlefield, while the mummies slowly walked towards our girl and Lilia. And what do you know, these 2 did their homework because somehow they knew about our girl and that she possessed strength that was over legendary rank. As for our girl, she knew these 2 would be trouble, so she told Lilia to stay out of this fight and let her handle them. This surprised Lilia, so she asked why, and the reason was she was looking for some good punching bags for quite some time now, and these 2 happened to be the perfect candidates for that. But on the outside, she told Lilia she should help her soldiers instead. After giving the order, she activated her ability, and damn, this was some good-ass domain expansion stuff, because before they even knew it, all 3 of them were standing in the middle of a massive arena, which was glowing in crimson red. This surprised the 2 men because they didn't even know what happened, so they asked the girl about it. Our girl happily explained what was going on here. She brought them inside a PvP area from where they won't be able to leave no matter what, even if they somehow managed to defeat her, and they weren't the only ones who were teleported into this dimension. There was someone else out there who was watching their whole fight from the shadows, and that someone just happened to be that same rat man with the invisibility ability. Despite all that, the men weren't worried. After all, this was still a 3-on-1 situation, and they were confident a tiny little girl wouldn't be able to keep up with them for long. Cut to the outside, and despite receiving so much power from our girl, Lilia was struggling with simple soldiers. And not far from her, a little fox was observing her with curiosity, and for some reason, even after using her power on the girl. She wasn't able to see her death, and that had her confused. But ignoring that, she leaped off of the tree and like a flash, took out all the guards that were supposed to keep the girl safe and appeared right in front of her face. By the time Lilia noticed her presence, it was too late, because the girl was already in striking range. Next panel, and a loud slashing sound was heard echoing through the whole battlefield as the girl swung her blade straight at Lilia's chest. And after finishing the job, she landed in the distance, but as she turned around, she was shocked to see that not only was the girl standing on her 2 feet, but she didn't even have a single scratch on her body, despite her delivering a clean hit on her chest. But what she didn't know was that Lilia possessed a skill that automatically blocks a fatal attack that deals damage no more than 99,999 points. But there was a catch to this insanely overpowered skill. It could only be used once per day, after which there is a 24-hour cooldown, meaning from here on she needed to fight Mevis with her life on the line. Next chapter starts with our Ratman's backstory, and apparently it's a tragic one. He was abandoned by his family at a young age, forced to live on the streets, the classic stuff. However, there was one thing that made him different than the other kids around him. He was a natural-born assassin possessing an ability called Presence Reaver, which made Prakaka believe he was invincible. That was until he came face-to-face with this person who was easily able to see through his ability. Seeing him just standing there, one of the mummies asked the reason, and why wasn't he attacking that girl? Hearing that, the kid took off his hoodie and like smoke, he flew straight at the girl and bam, face-planted right at her feet and started begging for his life. Yeah, neither of the 2 mummies were happy seeing one of their members groveling at the feet of a loli, so both of them prepared to end this quickly and unleash their ultimate move, turning their entire bodies into massive heads with sharp fangs. Like something like that was enough to stop Violet, and the girl casually swung her staff at the 2 fools, shattering them into pieces. And if you are expecting them to get back up after this, think again. They're gone, 2 of the legendary level warriors, gone with just a casual swing of her staff. After taking care of the 2, she walked over to Prakaka, who still had his head pressed to the ground, and delivered the bad news. Turns out she can't spare his life even if she wanted to, because to escape this place, she had to be the only one left standing, or she needed to wait 24 hours for this dimension to disappear on its own. So yeah, he needed to die because she wasn't spending 24 hours inside this gloomy place with a rat. But she did assure him she would bring him back right after she escapes from this place. Wait, she can do that? Then why didn't she do it for Connor? She deserved it more than this rat kid. Cut to the outside, and Flora was seen getting pushed back by her master, who seemed impressed seeing how the girl managed to learn the second form of the Red Lotus 6 technique at such an early stage. But despite that, he could tell she still wasn't able to use the subsequent techniques and was only using the first form. Annoyed, Flora told the man to shut up and stop talking to her so casually as if he knew her, because in her mind, her master was already gone, and he was just a walking corpse pretending to be him. Listening to her words, the man told the girl to get ready because they were about to finish this once and for all, and Flora happily agreed to it and activated her first form, while the man went straight for the second form of Crimson Flame. Next panel, both attacks collided, creating a massive explosion that shattered straight through Flora's first form. Seeing that the girl was done for, the man prepared to end it with this final attack called the third form, Inferno. But just as he was about to launch the thing, an arrow flew by his face, leaving a small scar, and that stunned the old fool. Turns out our girl had been holding back this whole time because she wanted to confirm something, and now that she was certain about it, she prepared to end the man's misery. So she asked him if he remembers how. While drawing his last breaths, he kept mumbling how he wasn't able to learn the last 3 techniques of the Red Lotus archery, because according to him, those techniques were something no human could achieve in their limited lifespan. And man, was she looking awesome walking out of that sea of fire while asking the man if he still remembers those words. The man answered yes. Turns out even he, with his limited talent, only managed to master the first 3 techniques in his lifetime, but thanks to the Eternal Throne, he got another chance at that. Flora immediately shouted for the man to stop after hearing the words Eternal Throne come from his mouth, because she wasn't done talking. She asked how much of his life he still remembers while he was still alive. She asked if he still remembered that old tavern in the west he used to visit because he loved the drinks there, how he used to take naps in the trees, or that widow he never stopped talking about who lived at the edge of the village. She screamed for him to answer if he still remembers those things about the real Anthony Stevenson, and if he still believed that this so-called immortality magic was real, because as far as she could see, he was nothing more than a puppet using her master's body, who had been dead for a long time. Those words definitely stung the old man, so he prepared to take the girl out. But this time, our girl was done holding back, so she started from the first form of the Crimson Flame, which the man managed to block. Then came the second form called Sky Blaze, but then, to the man's horror, she used a technique he spent his entire life mastering, the third form, Inferno, but she didn't stop there. This girl actually managed to achieve the impossible in these past few years, because she even used the fourth form of the technique called the Flowing Light. And with that, the whole place started crumbling into pieces as the old man finally accepted his defeat. And when it was all finally over, Anthony was on his knees congratulating the girl, but this time, instead of calling her a disciple, he called her Miss Scarlet Flame, who had completely surpassed a failure of a man like him. As for Flora, she couldn't bring herself to turn and face the man anymore, so she just told him it was all thanks to someone whose power she was fortunate enough to witness, allowing her to grasp the true nature of that realm and gain new insights. The old man asked if she was talking about Violet, and Flora answered he was right. Hearing her say that Anthony told her to stop wasting her time talking to this old man and go save that princess. And the girl, knowing he was right, simply pulled up her hood and started walking away as the man's body began to disintegrate into thin air. As for Flora, just before leaving, she thanked the old man for still remembering her, and finally called him her master. Cut to Mavis, who was impressed by our princess's skills because the stories she heard about her were false. She was at least at mithril level. Lilia, panting and all bruised up, thanked the girl for that generous compliment. Yeah, turns out that was just a distraction, because Mavis immediately leaped into the air going straight for her neck. But just as she was about to strike, an arrow came flying, knocking her blade right out of her hand. Yep, it was Flora, who was apologizing to the girls for taking so long. Seeing her standing there, Mavis realized Anthony had failed, which means their chance of winning just dropped significantly. Recalling her conversation with the fox mommy, she remembered how she had instructed her to retreat no matter what if things start to get out of hand. But still, Mavis was dead set on taking out that princess this time. So to make that happen, the crazy girl literally drove her own hand into her chest to activate her fox spirit secret technique. Yeah, this girl is crazy as fuck. Even the two girls watching the whole scene were left speechless, watching her draining out all of her blood to create some kind of portal, which she was using to summon something. Realizing she was using the state of death for summoning, Flora immediately drew her bow to end the girl before it was too late. But here is the thing, it was already too late, because the ritual was already complete and the summoning was a success. And this girl was summoning the death omen star in this world, basically death itself. And before they knew it, they were standing face to face with the spirit of death. And the first thing the creature did was turn that massive eyeball of its towards Lilia. But just like with Mavis, this creature wasn't able to see the girl's death either. As it was trying to process what was going on, another person appeared at the location. And oh boy, this person was not happy seeing the sight before them, because they knew if she didn't stop this monster right here and now, all of the people in this place were going to die. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, our girl immediately raised her staff. A massive magic circle appeared in the sky, and from it emerged a powerful radiant light that shot straight at her. This is one of the most powerful spells in her arsenal, a 10th tier spell called I Am Light. As for the creature before her, even the thing was wide-eyed seeing her pull off that attack, so it asked for her name. That annoyed our girl because ever since she came to this world, everyone had been rudely demanding she tell them who she is instead of introducing themselves, so this time she told the creature to introduce himself first. The thing didn't mind, and trying to be as intimidating as possible, it introduced itself as the spirit of death, known as the Death Omen Star, who was summoned upon this world by Mavis. Yeah, it kept rambling about its greatness and everything, but our girl didn't even bother paying attention, and after it was finally done speaking, our Chad just winked at the thing, introducing herself as Violet, the one who was about to whoop his ass. Yeah. The creature didn't appreciate that ass-whooping part, so it immediately lunged at the girl to finish her off. But despite its immense size and intimidating aura, our girl didn't even bother moving out of the way, and what do you know, not even a single scratch on her body. All that talking and boasting about its strength, and it didn't even manage to leave a single scratch on Violet's clothes. Turns out her undies are actually an overpowered equipment, because they possessed a passive ability that makes her immune to damage if it was, how should I put it, weak as hell. So she suggested the thing change tactics, and instead of using AoE attacks, try using single target damage instead. Oh boy, the thing was pissed this time. It had been mocked one too many times, so not even giving her time to finish speaking, it unleashed its ultimate move called Annihilation Death Beam, and the attack collided dead on with Violet's tiny body. With that, dust and smoke covered the whole area, leaving behind a massive crater on the ground. But as the dust cleared out came our Chad, looking radiant as ever and wasn't happy that the thing rudely interrupted her in the middle of her speaking, but at least she managed to figure out how this creature's ability worked. Basically, it possessed a low-level instant kill attack skill, which, to be honest, was a massive letdown for our girl. On top of that, its level sucked, like really bad, meaning no matter how many times it attacks Violet, her equipment would just nullify the attack. And just to rub salt on the already open wound, she mocked the creature's ultimate ability, saying instant death attributes are the most useless skills in any game. Yeah, that was the last straw, and I know I said it used its ultimate ability earlier, but this time the thing was taking it even a step further, because the thing summoned a bunch of magical circles, which was a forbidden spell called Destruction of the Seven-Layered Void. Nope, still not impressed. That skill, according to Violet, didn't even come close to a level 100 spell, and since she was already bored by the creature's useless struggling, she decided to finish this once and for all. And with that, she pointed her staff towards the monster to show it what true power looks like, and all she said was, bang, after which the thing saw a massive beam of light shattering through all of its magic circles and coming straight for its face. And before it even had time to process what happened, a loud explosion shook the entire area, and this time the attack was on a completely different scale. Yeah, that's all it took, because the thing started disintegrating into the wind, with its final words being calling our girl a monster, after which everything went completely silent. After the creature was gone, an unconscious Mevis was seen falling from the creature's eyeball, and she plopped on the ground. Seeing her lying there, our girl decided to check up on the girl. Although she wasn't happy about the fact that the creature Mevis summoned called her a monster, she decided to ignore that, and after checking Mevis's body, she saw that the girl was still alive, but for some reason she was completely naked now. So, being the gentleman she was, she brought out the bandages she got when she defeated those two mummies inside that arena and wrapped the girl's entire body with them, after which she just turned around and left. Cut to the Wanhee Fortress where the sun was about to come up, and Rex suddenly noticed that all the beastmen forces were fleeing for some reason. Hearing those words, the whole human army started celebrating, realizing they finally won and managed to drive back the enemy from their lands. And what do you know, the idiot was actually hogging all the credit, because he had been put in charge of the defense this time. So the old man slapped all that nonsense out of him, reminding him it was thanks to their princess and her team that all of this was made possible, not them. And since he wasn't an idiot like his son, he took charge and shouted for his men to follow after the enemy forces and make sure they don't harm their princess while she was retreating to their territory. Cut to the team, who after defeating Mevis, destroyed all the teleportation arrays in that place that were being used to transport food supplies to the beastmen, after which they climbed on the back of the giant turtle to cross the river. As for the beastmen army, for some reason they never encountered them while making their way back, so that was a good thing for the team, and before they knew it, they were safely back home with already the next sun rising. Our girl finally summoned her overpowered dragon Waifu, and the reason was because they were done with the princess business and this human-beastman war. And since she already managed to help humans win, Violet was planning on heading out to look for a new adventure. But just as they were about to fly away, Xiao noticed a presence behind them and told our girl about it. Looking back, she saw Princess Lilia, who was running towards her, telling her to stop. Surprised, she turned around and saw that the girl wasn't happy seeing her leave without even a proper goodbye, because she never even got a chance to thank her. Approaching the two of them, she took out a gold family crest as a thank you to our girl, which was basically a pass that worked across the entire human kingdom. Because after thinking it over, this was the only gift she could come up with that might make up for everything Violet had done for them. Our girl happily accepted the gift and thanked the girl, since this was perfect. Just then, Lilia suddenly leaned in close, whispering to Violet and telling her never to forget about her. And to our girl's surprise, Lilia landed an unexpected attack right on her cheek, and that stunned our girl, because she wasn't expecting to be attacked like that out of nowhere. Next chapter started in some kind of a forest, with a lone pond resting at its center, and from within that pond appeared our girl, who after so much time finally got a chance to take a proper bath and clean herself properly, so she was making the most of it. Not far from her was Xiao, and for some reason the girl seemed upset and wouldn't even come down to join Violet in the bath. And I don't know if I should add this or not, but the last time Xiao took a bath was back in that inn when they first arrived in this world. And since our girl didn't want to walk around with a stinky dragon girl climbing all over her, she told her to bring her butt down here immediately. But again, Xiao refused to even look at her. Annoyed, she decided to change tactics and started complaining how it was so hard to wash all this hair all by herself. But this wasn't just a complaint. She was genuinely wondering how girls even wash their hair, because these things are just too long. As for Xiao, yeah, this was really starting to get annoying because more than anything in the world, she wanted to join her mistress in that pond, but she was mad at her for some reason, so she shouted that she wouldn't be tempted by her tricks. Next panel, she was happily scrubbing our girl's head while humming to herself. As for our girl, she asked the reason for being so upset with her. Xiao denied that, saying she was just imagining things. But our girl knew this was about Lilia and what she did when they were leaving that fort. Yeah, that was definitely it. And this time the girl wasn't even trying to hide the fact that she was jealous of that human girl who had the nerve to land a kiss on her master. Seeing her making a fuss, Violet told her to calm down, because she was just misunderstanding things. That was just a farewell kiss by a friend and nothing else. But for Xiao, yeah, her whole world shattered when she saw that girl pull a kiss on her right in front of her eyes. And recalling that scene once more, she was getting really emotional, because back then she literally tried to gouge the girl's face off, but Violet stopped her. As for farewells, Violet told Lilia she wasn't really leaving the human kingdom just yet, meaning there was a high chance they were going to meet again. Yeah, that ended up making Lilia look like a fool, because she was getting all emotional, acting like that was the last time they were ever going to see each other. But lucky for her, our girl started flying away before the situation got any more embarrassing for her. As for the little trinket she gave to our girl, she thanked her for the thing, promising she was going to put it to good use. Back in the present, our girl was changing topics and asked Xiao if she remembers their conversation with Nasirian, that same old turtle. Seeing her bringing up that emergency food out of nowhere, Xiao showed surprise. As for her question, what he told them, she didn't even bother paying attention when that thing was talking, so she didn't know what she was asking about. Well, first, our girl made one thing clear. That creature wasn't their emergency food. And second, she reminded her about the whole conversation about the demon lord Olivia and her demon dragon Nesseratric, who went missing and never came back. Surprised, Xiao asked why she was so curious about those two. After all, it's not like it has anything to do with them. Our girl agreed, but still she wanted to know what happened to Olivia and all the dragons who completely vanished after her disappearance. On top of that, that piece of her staff, which they found, was also bugging her. And now the appearance of this illusory world was also concerning, because those people somehow knew about her, and she had a hunch all of these things were connected. But Zhao assured our girl there was nothing to worry about because the two of them were far stronger than Olivia and her dragon. After all, that turtle was so weak, meaning its father was also no match for her. On top of that, she was even confident that their children could easily defeat that overgrown turtle and his father. Yeah, our girl just smacked her hand on her head and asked what kids was she even talking about. Yeah, it was true, they didn't have any just yet, but Zhao was more than willing to change that if our girl agreed to take responsibility. A bold offer, a terrifying one. Sadly, our girl was not ready to become a mother/father, or whatever category this situation fell under. So she patted Zhao on the shoulder, took a deep breath, and told her to please stop talking nonsense, all while silently mourning the absurdly tempting offer she just turned down. Fast forward to the Flame Dragon City, the only city in the human kingdom known to have a real connection to actual dragons, and at one of the stalls, two hooded figures were seen questioning an old lady about something. Yep, it was Violet and Zhao who came here looking for any clues that might lead them to any surviving dragons, but instead got talked into buying a plushie. But staying on topic, Violet asked the old woman if dragons really used to visit this place. Turns out even the old lady wasn't sure because those were just legends passed down to them from their elders. As for the people currently living, none of them had ever seen a dragon with their own eyes. As she was explaining all that to our girl, she was busy trying to get Zhao off of her because the girl was being a little too clingy for some reason. But the old lady wasn't done. Seeing how interested the girl was in dragons, she pulled out a shiny necklace and told Violet that, according to some legends, their local specialty, crimson copper, was formed under the influence of dragon blood, and the piece she was holding in her hand was made from that very material. Yep, our girl fell for it and told the old woman to give her two of those things. Meanwhile, while she was trying to have a proper conversation with the old woman, Zhao was getting bolder and bolder by the minute, and using her tail, she did something she definitely shouldn't have. Yeah, that was it, and the sound of a loud punch landing rang through the whole place. Before they knew it, they were heading out with our girl telling Zhao not to do stuff like that in public, because she didn't want people getting the wrong ideas about them. After some time, they arrived outside a massive mansion, where they were stopped by a guard because the place they were going to was where the city lord's mansion was, so unauthorized personnel weren't allowed inside. Not sure what she is planning, but she came prepared for this and showed the man a piece of paper, telling him she was a doctor who came here looking for a job. Turns out these people are looking for some good doctors, and seeing our girl's degree in MBBS, which she pulled out of nowhere, he agreed to let her through. After some time, they were inside the mansion, with the man asking both girls to wait for a bit while he goes to inform their city lord about their arrival. But for some reason, he stopped and asked our girl if she truly was confident in her abilities, because many doctors and priests before her have already tried, but none of them succeeded. Turns out the village was hit by some kind of disease that was killing pretty much everyone. To that, our girl assured the man she was more than qualified for something so trivial and told him to just bring the city lord already. But the man still wasn't confident in her abilities and said to just tell the city lord she would do her best, even though he was sure she wasn't going to succeed. He didn't even get a chance to finish that sentence before he saw a red-haired woman standing in front of him, telling him he could leave now, and that scared the guy. This woman right here is Anastasia Sinale, the city lord of Flame Dragon City, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting a beauty to be running the whole place. I was half expecting some old man to walk in instead. On top of that, she was holding a staff in her hand, meaning she wasn't an ordinary human either. Approaching our girl, she greeted her properly, and somehow this woman was already able to tell Violet was an amazing healer, even though she introduced herself as a doctor and never told them she possessed healing abilities. Curious, Violet asked how she knew about her powers. Anastasia answered by telling our girl she possessed some special ability which lets her see the invisible aura around others, and according to her, this was no ordinary ability either, since she was probably the only person on the entire continent capable of doing that. That got our girl thinking because she had already come across another person not too long ago who was the same case because they possessed an ability that was only unique to them. And it was that rat man who she probably never bothered to bring back, even though she promised she was going to. Anyways, back then she heard that guy's invisibility skill was something only unique to him. As she was in the middle of her thoughts, Anastasia suddenly knelt in front of her, explaining that she could tell whether a person was good or bad by the color of their aura, which would appear an ominous red. But in her case, her aura was the most refined she had ever seen in her entire life, and she was sure our girl had already saved countless lives using her healing abilities. That part surprised our girl, because she was sure she never used her power to save that many people after arriving in this world. So the only logical explanation left was the constant healing she had done for her teammates back in the illusory world. And if that was true, then the number of people she healed was probably in the thousands. But during all that flirting and praising, they forgot about another person who was with them in the room, and that person was not happy seeing that woman landing a smooch on Violet's hand. So our girl quickly introduced her to Anastasia as her maid. But in Anastasia's eyes, that girl looked like a dragon, because surprise she was, and that dragon was just waiting for an opportunity to clamp its jaw on that sweet-talking mouth of hers. But since our girl didn't want to expose her being a dragon to anyone just yet, she told the woman she was also her bodyguard and was super strong. And this part doesn't make any sense. Aren't humans and beast folk supposed to be enemies? So why wasn't Anastasia saying anything about that thick, soft tail swaying behind our dragon waifu? Getting back on topic, Violet asked the woman to tell her everything that has been going on in this village. Turns out their whole village was plagued by the dragon's blood disease. Cut to another part of the city where a man was seen performing healing magic on a patient suffering from that illness. Just then, two women walked into the room calling the man a bishop and informing him about another patient who was just brought into the building. Seeing that it was an elderly woman, the man showed concern and asked both of them to take her to the bed inside. Turns out the reason he was acting like this was because he had already lost hope for this woman, because if an elderly person catches this disease, they rarely last a day. Just then, the door to the place swung open, and in came Anastasia along with the two girls, announcing she managed to find a healer that could help them. But for some reason, instead of getting happy, the man's whole mood shifted, and he asked Anastasia what she was doing bringing these people into this place. Turns out, after so many people ripping them off and being unable to help with the situation, the man was fed up. So he reminded the girl that even he, a bishop, wasn't able to cure these people, and asked if she really thinks some random healers could possibly succeed. With that, he launched into a whole rant, scolding Anastasia for not directly seeking help from the capital or the temple, and instead relying on outsiders. By then, our girl was already standing next to the elderly woman who was just brought into the place and noticed her condition wasn't good. As for the man, he asked Anastasia to leave with her two friends because he was busy actually trying to help all these people. That was until he turned toward our girl, who had already started doing her thing on the old woman. Seeing her using healing magic on the old lady, the man started panicking, telling the girl to stop, because elderly suffering from this disease can't withstand healing spells. But before he could even finish that line, our girl was done, and the old lady was back to 100% with not even a single sign of the disease left behind. This shocked the man, because even his holy magic had no effect on this disease. But the one even more shocked was our girl, because guess what? She never used her healing magic on that woman. All she did was place her hand on her body, and she started getting cured on her own, which left her wondering what the reason could be. As she was in the middle of that thought, a hand appeared, grabbing her by her wrist. Turning around, she saw that it was Anastasia, who, after witnessing her powers, asked the girl to follow her, because there were more patients who needed her help. Our girl paused for a second and gave the woman a cold stare, because she was starting to suspect this disease was no ordinary illness but seemed like something else entirely. But deciding to ignore it for now, she started following Anastasia to save as many people as possible. As for the bishop, he didn't even know what he was supposed to think anymore, because he was still having a hard time accepting that his holy magic was less effective than that little girl's powers. And that got him wondering if it could be because his faith wasn't strong enough, and that was why he wasn't able to save those people with his powers. But then he quickly snapped himself out of those thoughts, convincing himself that couldn't be the case. Fast forward to the night, and Zhao was complaining how that Anastasia made them work so hard, and now she was completely exhausted. But the thing was, she didn't even do anything. Our girl was the one doing all the work. But ignoring that, she instructed Zhao to stay in this room and behave while she was away, because she was invited to have dinner with Anastasia, so she would be heading out for a bit. Zhao agreed to do as she was saying, but then those words got processed in her brain and she sprang up, asking why she wasn't taking her with her. Well, the answer was simple. She didn't want to deal with her while eating, because she knew how she can be when other women are around her. So Violet just told her to be good and promised she was going to bring something tasty for her when she comes back. Yeah, Zhao knew she had no choice but to listen to her master, but this was the first time she wasn't being taken along somewhere, and that had her furious. Almost immediately, her mind went into the gutter, and she started fantasizing that Anastasia raising up her master and doing unspeakable, unholy things to her while she was alone with her. So she shouted for her to stop and not fall into that temptress's trap, but by then, it was already too late. Cut to our girl, who was sitting across Anastasia, making small talk, who was thanking our girl for everything she did for them today. In the middle of their conversation, she asked where Zhao was and why she didn't bring her along. Our girl answered she left her in her room to rest up for the night. Yep, Zhao was right. This woman indeed has some questionable intentions toward Violet, because the girl literally climbed onto the table and started getting close to her face, and with that seductive smile of hers, asked the real reason why she left her friend behind and came to meet with her all alone. Well, that's all for today, folks. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave the video a thumbs up, and if you want to know what happens next, hit the subscribe button. Until next time, take care.